Welcome to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the ages, unraveling the threads of time to reveal the intricate tapestry of human experience. Today, we find ourselves at the threshold of a revolution that would change the course of history forever: the invention of the printing press, circa 4040. This groundbreaking innovation would democratize knowledge, spread ideas like wildfire, and forever alter the fabric of our collective understanding. It was an era where knowledge was a rarefied commodity, accessible only to the privileged few who possessed the means to acquire it. In the early 15th century, the city of Mainz, Germany, emerged as a hub of intellectual and artistic fervor, its streets thronged with merchants, artisans, and scholars. It was here that a young goldsmith named Johannes Gutenberg would hone his craft, learning the intricacies of metalwork and typography from his father, Friele Gensfleisch. The Gensfleisch family, though not of noble lineage, had established themselves as respected members of Mainz's burgeoning middle class. As Gutenberg's skills as a goldsmith matured, he became increasingly fascinated with the art of bookmaking, which at that time relied heavily on the painstaking process of hand-copying manuscripts. The scarcity and expense of books made them inaccessible to all but the wealthiest patrons, creating a profound disconnect between the dissemination of knowledge and the masses yearning for it. Meanwhile, in the nearby city of Strasbourg, another key figure was emerging: Johann Mentelin, a printer and bookseller who would later become one of Gutenberg's closest associates. Mentelin's workshop was a hotbed of innovation, where experiments with movable type and ink were beginning to take shape. Though his early endeavors were not yet yielding the desired results, Mentelin's pioneering spirit and willingness to challenge conventional wisdom would soon prove instrumental in the development of the printing press. As we follow the trajectory of these events, we find ourselves hurtling toward a convergence of technological advancements, intellectual curiosity, and entrepreneurial vision that would give birth to one of humanity's most transformative inventions. In the years leading up to the invention of the printing press, Gutenberg's fascination with bookmaking only deepened, driving him to experiment with novel techniques for reproducing text. His experiences as a goldsmith had endowed him with a unique understanding of metalworking, which he now sought to apply to the creation of movable type. The challenge was daunting: to craft individual characters that could be rearranged and reused, thereby facilitating the mass production of books. Gutenberg's tireless efforts were not occurring in isolation. A broader cultural and economic landscape was unfolding, one that would ultimately provide the fertile ground upon which his innovations would take root. The rise of trade guilds, the growth of cities, and an increasing demand for literature all contributed to an environment where the printing press could flourish. As the threads of fate began to intertwine, the world stood poised on the cusp of a revolution that would shatter the boundaries of knowledge, empowering generations to come. As the threads of fate began to intertwine, Gutenberg's experiments with movable type reached a critical juncture. By around 1440, he had successfully crafted individual characters that could be rearranged and reused, thereby facilitating the mass production of books. This breakthrough was soon followed by the development of a suitable ink, one that would adhere evenly to the metal type and parchment. The exact composition of this ink remains a matter of debate among historians, but it is believed to have been a mixture of linseed oil, soot, and gum arabic. With his movable type and ink in hand, Gutenberg set about constructing the first printing press. This device, comprising a screw-based press and a series of metal type pieces, would allow him to print multiple copies of a text with unprecedented speed and accuracy. The press itself was likely inspired by the wine presses of the time, which used a similar screw mechanism to extract juice from grapes. Gutenberg's innovation lay in adapting this technology for the purposes of printing, thereby creating a machine that could exert sufficient pressure to transfer ink onto parchment or paper. As news of Gutenberg's invention spread, it attracted the attention of investors and scholars alike. One such individual was Johann, a wealthy merchant from Mainz, who would eventually become Gutenberg's business partner. Thust's financial backing proved instrumental in helping Gutenberg refine his printing press and establish a workshop in Mainz. It was here, in the early 1440s, that the first printed books began to emerge. Among these early publications were editions of the Bible, works of classical literature, and even some original compositions by contemporary authors. One of the most significant events in the history of the printing press occurred on August 24, 1456, when Gutenberg completed the famous Gutenberg Bible. This magnificent tome, comprising 1,286 pages of intricately printed text, was the first major book to be produced using the new technology. The Bible's production required an enormous amount of labor and resources, with some estimates suggesting that it took a team of skilled craftsmen over 3 years to complete. The end result, however, was well worth the effort, a beautifully printed book that would set the standard for future publications. As the printing press gained popularity, it began to attract the attention of scholars and intellectuals from across Europe. One such individual was the humanist scholar Aeneas Silvio Piccolomini, who would later become Pope Pius II. In a letter written to his friend Cardinal Nicholas of Cusa, Piccolomini marveled at the speed and accuracy of the printing press, declaring that the art of printing will be the most important invention of our time. This sentiment was echoed by many of Piccolomini's contemporaries, who recognized the profound impact that the printing press would have on the dissemination of knowledge and ideas. As the years passed, the printing press continued to spread throughout Europe, with new presses being established in cities such as Venice, Florence, and Paris. The invention of the movable type printing press had a profound impact on the dissemination of knowledge, making it possible for books to be produced quickly and cheaply. This, in turn, contributed to a significant increase in literacy rates, as more people had access to written materials than ever before. By the early 16th century, the printing press had become an essential tool for scholars, writers, and thinkers, enabling them to share their ideas with a wider audience. One of the most significant consequences of the printing press was the Protestant Reformation, which was sparked in part by the widespread dissemination of Martin Luther's 95 Theses. The ability to mass-produce pamphlets and books allowed reformers like Luther to reach a large audience, challenging the authority of the Catholic Church and contributing to a fundamental shift in the religious landscape of Europe. As the historian Elizabeth Eisenstein has noted, the printing press was a key factor in the rapid dissemination of reformist ideas, allowing them to spread quickly across Europe and beyond. As the printing press continued to evolve, new technologies were developed to improve its efficiency and quality. The introduction of the rotary press in the 19th century, for example, allowed for even faster and more efficient printing, making it possible to produce large quantities of newspapers, magazines, and books. The development of offset printing in the 20th century further increased the speed and quality of printing, enabling the mass production of high-quality images and text. Today, the invention of the printing press is remembered as a pivotal moment in human history, marking the beginning of a new era in communication and knowledge sharing. As the historian Johannes Gutenberg himself once said, "The art of printing will be the most important invention of our time," a sentiment that has been borne out by the profound impact of the printing press on modern society. The printing press has had a lasting influence on education, literature, science, and politics, shaping the course of human history in ways both subtle and profound. The legacy of the printing press can be seen in the countless books, newspapers, and magazines that line our shelves and fill our digital devices. It can be seen in the widespread literacy rates that exist today, and in the ease with which we can access information from anywhere in the world. The invention of the printing press may have begun as a simple technological innovation, but it has had a profound and lasting impact on the world we live in today. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.